Hello, friends. Welcome to Literary Concepts. Today's topic is the age of sensibility. The age of sensibility is the last phase of the neoclassical age or neoclassical period. So, this was started in 1750 and ended in 1798. Now, let us try to understand about the age of sensibility. So, the age of sensibility is also known as the pre romantic era, the pre romantic period. It is a pre romantic period. So, this literary period in England occurred between the Augustan age and Romanticism. So, this age happened between the Augustan age and Romanticism. So after the Augustan age, before the Romantic period. So this period emphasized more on emotion, sentiment, and intuition over reason. So here we find more prominence given to emotions, sentiments, and intuitions. So that is the inner feelings, okay, the instinct feelings rather than the reason or logic. So we find a shift from rational ideals of the Enlightenment to a focus on individual feelings and nature. So there is a shift from logical thoughts or rational thoughts of enlightenment awakening to a focus on individual feelings, a person's feelings and nature. We find in the age of sensibility. So the literature of this time, the literature of this period reflected moral philosophy, medieval influences, and an interest in the sublime. So we find that we observe there is a moral philosophy and medieval influences. So that is the old fashioned influences, primitive influences we find, and an interest in the sublime. Understand, an interest in the so noble thoughts or supreme thoughts or lofty ideals. And we also see the rise of Gothic fiction during this time and the early development of the novel of sensibility. So sensibility means so where that we understand and feel the emotions. So it is very much sensitiveness. Understand, we feel that okay, we feel that feelings and understand the emotions, and at the same time the sensitive aspects we find during this time. Now, let us try to understand the characteristics of the age of sensibility. So, the first characteristic is emphasis on emotion and sentiment. We find more importance given to emotion and sentiment. So, the literature of the time focused more on intense emotions, very strong emotions like sympathy, melancholy, that is sadness and sorrow feelings, and compassion, so feeling very pity. Understand, so these aspects we find more in the literature of the age of sensibility. The next characteristic is interest in nature and the sublime. So we find there is a interest in nature. Writers explored the power and beauty of the nature, the power and beauty of the nature, inspiring that awe and fear. So you find that inspiration of that wonder, admiration, and fear during this period. So in the works of age of sensibility. The next characteristic is medieval revival. So this period saw the renewed interest in medieval themes. So that is The themes which were related to the Middle Ages are the old fashioned themes, Middle Ages, and the ballads and chivalry. So we also find that the ballads and chivalry more during this time. So chivalry means the nobility, nobleness. The next characteristic is Gothic element. So the next characteristic is the Gothic element. Gothic means strange events or horrifying events related to ghosts. So the Gothic elements like dark themes, supernatural elements, and mysterious settings became popular during the age of sensibility. Dark themes means so the gloomier, sad themes, or otherwise the horror themes, the tragic topics, the supernatural elements. So and the mysterious, very strange aspects also became very popular in the literature of the age of sensibility. The next characteristic is moral and philosophical reflections. We find okay, moral values have given more importance, and the philosophical thoughts also reflected more in the works. So many works reflected on morality, virtue, goodness, and human nature. Okay, in the works of Age of Sensibility. The next characteristic is transition to Romanticism. So there is a shift to Romanticism, transformation to Romanticism. The literature of sensibility paved, so it led to the way for the Romantic movement. So this has shown the path to the romantic movement, so which emphasized the romantic movement emphasized more on imagination and individual experiences. They have given more prominence to imagination and individual experiences in the works of romantic movement. So these are the important characteristics of the age of sensibility. Now let us try to understand about the major writers and their works of the age of sensibility. The first writer is Samuel Johnson, so whose time period started in 1709 and ended in 1784. So his important work is a dictionary of the English language, which was published in 1755. So a dictionary of the Samuel Johnson's dictionary of the English language is very very popular, and he contributed majorly to the English lexicography. That is, lexicography means writing a dictionary. Understand? Samuel Johnson contributed major to the English lexicography, so writing a dictionary. So it is very very important one even for the competitive examination purpose. Do remember, a dictionary of the English language first published in 1755. The next work of Samuel Johnson is The Lives of Poets, so which was written between 1779 and 81. So this work, okay, projects the biographical and critical studies of English poets. The biographical aspects and the critical aspects of English poets were highlighted in the work of Samuel Johnson, that is, the lives of the poet. The next work is The Rambler. Okay, The Rambler, which was written between 1750 and 52, and The Idler, which was written between 1758 and 60. So these two works, The Rambler and The Idler, were the periodical essays. They were journalistic essays on morality and literature. The Rambler and Idler were the periodicals, essays, so which focused on morality and literature of the time. The next writer is Thomas Gray, whose lifespan started in 1716 and ended in 1771. So his important work is Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard, so which was published in 1751. It is very important poem for the competitive examination purpose. So which was published in 1751. It was a melancholic reflection. It was a melancholic poem, okay, reflected on death and the lives of common people. So it was a unhappy poem, the sorrowful poem. Understand a sad mood and sad feelings uh, we find in the poem. So which focuses on the death and the lives of the common people. The next work of Thomas Gray is the Bard, okay, which was published in 1757. It's a historical poem about the last Wales bard. Understand, bard means poet. So Wales bard means Wales poets are sometimes they were the singer poets. Understand, the composers bards, they were also composers. These are the two important works of Thomas Gray. One is Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard, and the next one is a bard. The next writer is Oliver Goldsmith, whose time period started in 1728 and ended in 1774. His important works are The Vicar of the Wakefield, which was published in 1766. It was a sentimental novel about virtue and misfortune. So Vicar of Wakefield is okay was a sentimental novel. So which focus on virtues, the goodness and misfortunes, unlucky, bad luck, okay, unlucky things. The next work is The Deserted Village, which was published in 1770. So it was a poem lamenting rural depopulation. So feeling very expressing the sorrow because of the rural, okay, reduction in the population, decrease in the rural population. The next work is She Stoops to Conquer, which was published in 1773. So it was a comedic play. It was a comedic play with the themes of mistaken identity and class issues. She Stoops to Conquer focuses on mistaken wrong identities and class issues. The next writer is Edmund Burke. Edmund Burke, whose time period started in 1729 and ended in 1797. His important works are A Philosophical Inquiry into the Origin of Our Ideas of the Sublime and Beautiful, which was published in 1757. It was a key work in aesthetics, discussing the sublime, the noble thoughts, the great, okay, the supreme, lofty thoughts. So, a philosophical inquiry into the origin of our ideas of the sublime and beautiful is a very important work in aesthetics. The next work is Reflections on the Revolution in France. Reflections on the Revolution in France, which was published in 1790. It was a political work opposing the French Revolution. It was okay. It was written against to the French Revolution. The next writer is James Macpherson. James Macpherson, so whose time period started in 1736 and ended in 1796. His important work is Ocean Poems, which was published around 1760s. So it was declared to be the translations of ancient Scottish epics. So it was declared or claimed to be the translations of ancient Scottish epics, but later revealed to be partly fabricated. It was partly fabricated. Understand? It was partly a makeup or something, a kind of elaborated one. The next writer is Richard Brinsley Sheridan. Richard Brinsley Sheridan, whose time period started in 1751 and ended in 1816. So his important works are, the first one is The Rivals, which was published in 1775. It was a satirical comedy of manners. Rivals was a satirical comedy of manners. The next one is The School for Scandal, which was published in 1777. So it was a play criticizing gossip and hypocrisies in high society. So it criticizes the rumors and pretensions in high society, the upper class society. The next and final writer is Horace Walpole. So the next writer is Horace Walpole, whose time period started in 1717 and ended in 1797. So his important work is The Castle of Otranto. The Castle of Otranto, which was published in 1764. So this is considered the first Gothic novel. The Castle of Otranto, considered to be the first Gothic novel. Do remember this point. So which introduced supernatural elements and dark settings, the dark aspects, the dark themes. So these are the important writers and their works. So I hope you understand the Age of Sensibility period. So thank you.